Well, hello, everybody. We are so very glad you're here today. Thanks for joining us for our program called The Path of a Spiritual Warrior through Horse Wisdom. My name is Selena Poole, and my business name is Conscious Collaborations. I partner with leaders who are taking us into the new paradigm of work and spirit by producing virtual events and creative communications that speak to us on many levels of awareness and that evoke the heart and soul. Before I introduce Lisa and Shelley, your hosts for today, I want to give you a few tips about getting the most out of your Hangout experience with us. Much of the energy and magic of this series happens in the interactions between you and the other participants while you're watching. So be sure to use the chat to talk to each other or to submit questions to our hosts. It's our intention that you find this Hangout inspiring, informative, and well worth your valuable time. So this is just a reminder to turn off everything that might be a distraction, like your cell phone and those pesky pop-up notifications on your computer. Today, I'll be managing the control panel and our chat. If you have any technical questions, ask them there, and I'll respond. Now, this is new and emerging technology and a live broadcast, so anything can happen. And we're well prepared to take care of any glitches if they should occur. So I know there's a lot of new folks with us today, so here are a few tips to get you started. Look for the white column on the right side of your screen. At the top of this column is the chat stream. At the bottom is the message box in which you type. If you haven't already, please say hello and tell us where you are in the world. Your chats are public to the group, so you can say hi to any of your friends. If you want to ask a question directed to Lisa or Shelley, click in the small square above your message to mark it as a question. That will highlight it in red for us to see. So then, as we have time, we will answer your questions live. We are going to have a great time today. We're expecting this Hangout to last about 60 minutes. So let's get started. During this 3-part series, Lisa and Shelley will share their stories of how they discovered their path as a spiritual warrior. Special guests will also share where they are on their paths and how horses have played an inspirational role. And you'll discover how you can move your path forward with Lisa and Shelley to create the life and business you have always wanted. Now, I'm going to turn our Hangout over to Lisa to introduce herself, our co-host Shelley, and today's program. Lisa?
Thank you so much, Selena. I'm hoping you hear me because when I did this last time, you couldn't.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, good. So there is a learning curve here, I'm happy to say. Wonderful. Shelley and I and Selena welcome you all with all of our hearts to this part 2, second part of a 3-part series, as Selena said, in learning more about the path of a spiritual warrior, and in particular how horses and horse wisdom have shown us so many wonderful ways to move forward on our path. And we, as she said, will be here for about 60 minutes. And in this time together, we promise to give you everything that we can and as many tools as possible so that you can begin and continue to walk your path right now. I'm Lisa Morrell, and my partner, Shelley Whitehouse, will be poking her cute little head in one of these screens shortly. I just want to recap a little bit about my story, which I did share with all of you in the first Hangout. But I just want to let you know that I feel that this path is a very intimate path for me as a result of my journey from farm girl in New Mexico to international model to corporate coaching consultant to now path of the spiritual warrior with horses. And that's quite a path. So it was not always easy, and it was not always smooth. So I feel like I've learned a lot, and my experiences have been the energy behind and the inspiration behind my putting together these practices and these 5 energies. So if you want to know more about my story, please go back to the first of this series, and you can hear all about all of the stuff that's going on with me and how I came to be in this place. But know that it had a lot to do with money. It had a lot to do with my daughter and all of us just moving forward in life, our path. And I'm sure you'll be able to relate to that. So let's see here now. Is this, I've given you my Cliff Note version, as I say to Shelley. And I'd love to hear for those of you who are in the chat if there's anything that you want to share about your path where you are now. And I do want to just mention that when I say the path of a spiritual warrior, I feel like, yes, at times it's divine, and at times I feel like I have to really fight. And that path helps me to stay going forward. Okay, Shelley, that's the origin of this in a little bit for me. So I'd like to introduce my partner, Shelley Whitehouse. And so, Shelley, you want to tell us about how you got here?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, as Lisa said, we both really shared our stories in the first episode. But just to recap, so you have a clue as to where we're coming from when we talk about the teaching component today, is something that I have been struggling with my whole life and digging deep into and trying to figure out why and what's next is I seem to be, I wouldn't say addicted, but I have this curse where I seem to be having to move like every couple of years. So in a nutshell, by the time I was 30 years old, I had lived in 30 different homes, dwellings, in 9 different states, often in the same city, but for whatever reason, and even though they're sometimes really, really good reasons, we would have to move. And I was talking about how what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that people, if you tough it through, you'll come out the other end and you'll be a lot stronger for it, and all the things that you learn. And my experience of that, I wasn't stronger. I was actually really deeply depressed, and I felt unrooted and unsecure and not able to sink my teeth into anything because I was pretty sure it wasn't going to last. So in the meantime, I raised 2 kids. I still have a wonderful marriage, but I just was kind of lost inside. And it was putting into place these practices that we're going to share with you today. We're actually going to go into the 10 practices on the path of a spiritual warrior. And although I didn't have these particular practices outlined exactly the way that we have them for you here today, it was this process that kept me, that helped me reconnect to myself and start to show up in a much more powerful way, even through all the uncertainty. And lo and behold, it's actually the uncertainty where all the good stuff is once we allow ourselves to be there. And so today we're going to really look at those components. We're going to look at it through the lens of detachment. So what's going to happen is Lisa's going to do a little overview about what we're doing next, and then I'm going to introduce the 10 practices on the path of a spiritual warrior. And then we're going to take one of them that we feel is actually absolutely critical to this path, and that's the practice of detachment. We'll call it high intention, low attachment, because you still have to have desires and you still have to have goals. Yet it's our attachment to them that can actually block us and slow us down. So Lisa's going to take us pretty deeply into this. So one thing we did want to share with you, last episode we talked about our spiritual warrior quiz, that most of you have taken that quiz. And at that time we had 230-something people had taken to really discern some information about where people are on this path. Well, as of this morning, over 435 people have taken this quiz so far. And what that tells us is that there's actually there's something about this, about this question that's speaking to a lot of people. So one of the things we discovered as we were disaggregating all of the information is that most people are struggling with a sense of community and support in being able to show up as who they really are. And then the other really big thing that showed up is self-care. That seems to be one of the biggest struggles, is self-care. So we're going to kind of weave in that as we go along. And then we're going to share with you our new course. It's an introductory course to the path of a spiritual warrior. And we'll go more into detail about that and how. So from there, we went about what we did last week, and that was the focus of the 5 energies of the path of a spiritual warrior. So Lisa, do you want to go over those energies with folks so they can kind of be grounded in where we're going from here?
Yeah. I was wondering first, for those of you who are here, if you're wondering if you're in the right place, this is very true that, well, we figure you're in the right place just simply because you're here. But just in case you were wondering, this webinar, this series, this gift from us to you is right for you if you feel like you're an adventurous soul and you delight in new experiences, that you have a humble awareness of yourself as a leader. Remember, Selena said she does this with leaders that bring new things to the world. That you hold a commitment to the evolution of self in the service of others. That you're inspired by life and you find solace and guidance within. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. And you have a passion to share your gifts with the world. And that's all of those things. I'm sure you're feeling part of that, or you wouldn't be here. And you probably also can relate to some of these challenges. And Selena, be sure and check in the chat to see if actually people show us some other challenges that I haven't said. That you're avoiding the commitment to your own soul's truth. That stuff you know deep inside. And this is like being a passenger in your own vehicle, allowing someone else, whether it's a thing or society, to drive who you really are in your life. Continual resistance of your own doubts and fears. Sometimes we all feel like we're not supposed to feel anything but in control and going forth without feeling fear. I mean, even in society, how many times do you hear this thing? No fear. And extreme sports and extreme everything and no fear. This is not paying attention to, and in fact, very large societal resistance to our doubts and fears, which serve us very well. And we are going to go into all of this in such depth in this upcoming course. And then denying vulnerability. Vulnerability, which is the critical ingredient to moving forward on your path. To not knowing. And again, when we go into the detachment, the high intention, low attachment, today and in the third part of the series, we're going to go so deeply into this. The importance of the role of vulnerability in being on and staying on your path. So if any of that applies to you, then know you are where you should be. Selena, did we have anything in the chat that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. Jackie talks about that she's involuntarily out of work, and this time is helping her.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. She's helping. This time is helping her to define what she doesn't want to do, and she feels a tug at times to feeling a bit financially insecure. But she's allowing this opportunity to take its course by taking action and allowing new opportunities to present themselves. She's learning to trust the process and be patient. So beautiful sharing. Yeah.
Jackie, that is so lovely. You will love some of the things that we're going to be talking about around detachment and vulnerability because you are living it right now, as though I need to remind you, I'm sure. Thank you for that transparent sharing. And thank you, Selena. I just want to remind everybody what the potential power is of this work, of really embracing these 5 energies and these 10 practices on the path of a spiritual warrior. And that is so apparent in my life because I have really lived them over these last few years, from that corporate burnout, that total emptiness of nurturing my soul and spirit, and also with my daughter, who I shared last time was recently diagnosed with schizophrenia. And so I find that these 5 energies in practice are so powerful, and they really kept me going when I didn't have a clue what to do next. And whether it was paying the bills so that I can continue living my passion and sharing them with you, or whether it was trying to decide if my daughter needed psychiatric care full-time or on an outpatient basis. These practices and these energies keep me in a place where actually, quite frankly, sometimes I don't feel like I'm going crazy. So I live a blessed life. Even in spite of all of this, I live a very blessed life. And these practices also support that perspective. And one reason I know I live a blessed life is because I'm working with Shelley and Selena. All of the people that are on this call, all of you have created this like-hearted and like-minded community. And the energy, I don't know, Selena and Shelley, I'm sure you can feel it. It's just so sweet. And that's what keeps me on the path. So the potential and value of this work is so much more than words. So we're sending it out the waves here in the ether, no matter how much tech problem we may have. Thank gosh, again, Selena's here. All right, while I'm trying to scroll down here, Selena, was there anything else in the chat? Any other sharings before I start going into the 5 energies?
No, except for me. I just want to say that I really appreciate the point about denying vulnerability. I've definitely lived that one, where I was the firstborn, I was, the first girl in a long list of cousins, and vulnerability was not anything that I thought I needed, but until much later in life. So thank you for that point.
Right, vulnerability. Yes. Well, let's first get into the content of this. Now, those of you who were with us last time or were looking at the replay, thank you all of you for doing that. You know that we went further into the 5 energies, which is really the container for the 10 practices. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, it's kind of like a context. The container is a context. How are you holding these 10 practices, which a lot of times people feel are things you have to do? They are actual things that you do. So sometimes I know when we have things that we need to do, we're not always feeling so good about it. Think about it. Okay, self-care. All right, I have to go to the gym. So our context or the energy we may have is, all right, I'll get it over with. Okay. Well, perhaps that's not the only energy you could have. Or when you're thinking about meditation, you may have the energy that because you weren't able to meditate today, or you can't find a space to do it between all of the children in your lives or all the challenges, and you're exhausted at the end of the day and you can't get up early enough, so you're judging, you're blaming, you're shaming yourself for not being able to have a consistent or thriving meditation practice. I will invite you again to consider that there may be another way of holding that, another energy to support you in that practice. So that's what these energies are about. And I want to just reiterate again what we mean by a spiritual warrior. And we feel, for the purposes of this, that a spiritual warrior is someone who listens to their own spirit, is someone who can sit in each moment with the intention to experience whatever the heart and its infinite wisdom wants to give in that moment. It's the attitude of a spiritual warrior who dedicates herself to ongoing awareness for growth and transformation for herself and for the greater good. So these 5 energies of congruence, creating connection, emotional and energetic agility, detachment, and discipline help us to hold the space so that we can move forward on our path. I want to just remind you, and Selena, if you just put up that link to the blog, I have done some work around and shared this with you, each one of these energies, so that you can find out more about them. I looked at what they are, and also remember we mentioned horses. Well, horses are a really big part of what we do, horse wisdom. And the horse wisdom that we have gained as a result of working with these energies with horses. And also the awareness that this energy creates. So it really is creating this sacred space of possibility, which my friend and mentor Kathleen Berry Ingram coined. And so I would advise you, yes, listen to me. I would invite you to really look at these practices, look at the blog, read them, see how they relate to you. And I can't help but say, is there anyone who has actually looked at these energies and applied any of them since the last time? Selena will be looking in the chat, so if you want to share any of your experiences or challenges with them, she'll be looking forward at all the chat, and I'd love to hear. Okay, so that's kind of a recap of where we were at the end of the last call. And Shelley, who is the precision person in this team, you were so right about the timing. I just want to give you immense credit for that. Because she knows I get so passionate about all of this. I say, oh, well, we'll get this done in this amount of time and that amount of time. She goes, Lisa, let's be realistic here. You know how you love this work. So, Shelley, I'll turn it over to you, and you'll keep us on time. Because we want to honor everyone's time here.
Yeah, I'll talk really fast. Well, the beautiful thing about that, Lisa, is once you get going, just like all these gems start pouring forth. So it's all wonderful and perfect, and it's just an outline, right?
Right. A guide.
Well, we want to share with you the 10 practices, and most of you have either received the download of the PDF, and if you have not, you will, as a result of attending today. You will receive the PDF of the 10 practices, and if you are also, if you're attending this, then you're receiving our emails that come once a day that go a little bit more in depth on each practice. So there's some content around those. So I'm just going to go through those very quickly before we dive into the practice of detachment as more of our teaching today. So number one, the first practice is accountability, which is do what you say. And this is accountability to yourself and to others. And we may even refer to it as loyalty to yourself. A spiritual warrior is loyal to yourself. The practice number two is to engage in rituals that support the expansion of your soul's desire. And these are incorporated through all the practices. And that a ritual might be something as simple as a mantra you say to yourself when you first wake up in the morning, or writing down your gratitudes for the day before you go to bed at night. So we'll go more into those actually in our coursework that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Practice number three is surround yourself with like-hearted and like-minded people. And that's exactly what we're doing today, right? We're immersing ourselves in relationship with other people who get us, who understand where we are. Number four is to become mindful and aware. Mindful and aware is starting to pay attention to your own 5 senses. What are you experiencing right now in this moment? What does it mean to you in this moment, not what did it mean to you 10 years ago? Number 5 is to practice feeling your feelings and to experience them. Similar to what I just said, starting to notice, what am I noticing about myself right now in this moment, and what does it mean to me? What is that message for me today going forward? Practice number 6 is to learn the language of your physical emotions. And that's, again, some people might have an old injury, and that injury will sometimes crop up and just become very acute, like the pain from that old injury will become very acute. Well, oftentimes there's new messages and even old injuries or feelings or something that we've become very accustomed to, just a chronic low grade something. So it's not always just a brand new physical sensation that has a message for us. Sometimes it's things we've been living with for a long time, and we have the opportunity to learn what it's been trying to tell us for years and years. Number 7, the practice is to honor your body. We tend to believe, and we have learned so deeply through our experience with the horses, that our bodies are our ultimate sensory device and our connection to the divine. Our connection to the divine is not just an etheric, energetic feeling. It's our actual physical knowing and connection that brings both heaven and earth through us. So again, we go more deeply into that in our full course. Practice number 8 is the practice of high intention and low attachment or detachment. And we'll go deeply into that today and in our next call, because it is so in depth that there's no way we'll get to all of it in just today. Practice number 9 is to align with planetary health or ecotherapy. And some people find this one a little bit surprising, but if you think about it, our health is directly related to the health of our planet and our environment. And as a spiritual warrior, it's very important that we are more in tune with the rhythms of nature and living from that place. And then number 10 is discipline in all of the above. And in our spiritual warrior quiz, discipline was another one of those things that people didn't seem to have a great relationship with. So that one we will cover more in our course as well, and we'll tell you about that later. So Lisa, are you ready to take us into that deep dive into detachment, or do we have some more questions or things we want to hear?
I don't know. I'd like to. Thank you for that, Shelley. And yeah, Selena, I always love to check in with the chat and see where people are, how they're receiving the information.
Yeah, there's a couple of great comments. Donna says that she's playing with holding the energy of discipline differently, thinking of it as a way of creating freedom. Discipline has seemed like a curse and a have to, not something that she chose, but a straitjacket from childhood. So she's asking herself the question, what if I embrace it as a gift that supports me instead? So beautiful. Yeah. And Cheryl shares that just staying in the moment has helped her keep depression at bay, allowing her to focus and see what is right in front of her. So, beautiful sharing. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you both. Well, I just wanted to say something about practice number 9, which was align with planetary health and ecotherapy. And this is just kind of like a little preview. Do you know that you can tell so much about who you are through the actual geographical area that you choose to live in? And Selena, this is going to be interesting for you because you're moving from the beach to the desert, the high desert.
Wow. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, there's been some incredible new research. So again, as Shelley was saying, we are aligned with the universe in every way possible. So discovering all of those ways and creating light and awareness and possibility in all of those areas is taking us places that perhaps we've not been before. So that was just a little preview. All right, okay, so now let's take a look at practice number 8, high intention, low attachment. I know this is a big one for many people. Thank you, Selena. Detachment is a state in which a person overcomes his or her attachment or desire for things, people, or concepts in the world, and thus attains a heightened perspective. This is our working definition of attachment. And it's also viewed as the main obstacle on the path of a spiritual warrior. Many traditions identify this lack of detachment with the continuous worries and anxieties that we all feel. And so we need to take a look at this detachment from a little bit different perspective. First of all, detachment, and you can take a look at the slides, is a cleansing act. Let's face it, all of the energy work that we do, if any of you have done Reiki or acupuncture, acupressure, all of the different, even massage, craniosacral work, any of this work is about clearing the body, clearing the system of blocks. And what do you think makes up those blocks? All of our attachments, all of our frustrations, all of our shaming, blaming, judgments about ourselves and others. So detachment is actually a cleansing act. When we actually let go of what must be for us, we open up. We open up neural pathways, we open up pathways for our energy, chi, the universal life force. We open up the way for the divine to be able to come in. So it is an act of cleansing. And detachment, this practice, lets us know that in order if we're going to acquire anything in life, in this physical universe, we're going to have to let go of our attachment for it. And if you practice this, you will understand why. How many times have you said, oh, it's got to be this way, or oh, and it just doesn't ever seem to come about in that manner. And it's also, I think this is important, it does not interfere with your intentions or your desires. And I think Shelley said something about this before, because it's important for us to be clear on our intention. It's important for us to be connected to what is it that is our desire. That is connected to the divine. But we must not be attached to the outcome. And I'll be telling you more about that in the second call, the second part of the series. But let the universe take care of the details. Keep your intention clear, recognize and honor your desires, and detach from the outcome. I think that's what we mean by high intention, low attachment. I think that's the way it is. Okay, and it's also, detachment is based on the knowledge of your true self and the unquestionable belief that your true self is part of consciousness. It's part of the universe. You are part of everything, and as a part of everything, you know, you trust unquestionably that you will be taken care of. So it's based on the knowledge of the true self. And it lets us know that our essence is pure consciousness. Again, that goes back to that trust. If we are unquestionably believing in our true self, we know that we are pure consciousness. That's our essence. And that in that essence, in that pure consciousness, everything is possible. And then practice of detachment is associated with wealth consciousness. And that means that anything is possible. Wealth, abundance. I love in Kashmir Shaivism and many Eastern religions the goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance, the goddess of light, the goddess of wealth and beauty. And that's what detachment shows us. And it's also grounded in the wisdom of uncertainty and vulnerability. We talked about vulnerability before, but we're going to go further into the wisdom of vulnerability. I talked about how it was an essential ingredient in moving forward on your path. Well, the not knowing, the uncertainty is also a critical ingredient. And detachment is grounded in that not knowing, and that there's great wisdom in that. That's what we want you to really feel, because it's in that not knowing that anything can happen. It really is a fertile ground for creativity. It's a fertile ground for freedom. In that, I know we had the comment from Donna saying she's trying to have a different relationship with discipline. If you're not attached, you detach from the way you are holding discipline. It is the fertile ground for freedom, which is exactly what this law of detachment tells us. So that kind of gives you an overview about this. Let's see, I just want to make sure that I am, since I'm working in concert with these lovely women, I want to make sure that I am following our outline, as Shelley called it, right? Okay, let's talk about what attachment is. Since, let's see, is that where we would be? Yes. The practice of detachment tells us all of those things. Let's look at the slide that talks about what attachment is, right? That'll be a good thing. So I'll just wait for Selena to put that up because we have slides. All right, now let's look at attachment. It's based on fear and insecurity, right? If you're attached to something, that means you're afraid of losing it, right? You're insecure. You're not believing in unquestionably in that true self of yours. It's also, this need of security is based on not knowing that true self. That's what I just said. I think I know this material. And also, one of the things that attachment does is it blocks that flow of the divine, of creative energy, of freedom, of solutions. And we're going to talk a lot about the natural emergence of solution when we detach from the outcome or a specific problem-solving attachment that we often have. And also it blocks abundance. And it's in the body. I know Shelley talked about in the 10 practices about understanding, becoming aware of and understanding your emotions and your physical sensations because they hold energy for us. When we're attached to certain things, there's these energy blocks that go in there, and there needs to be a clearing. Like I said, for me, I learned noetic balancing, which is a beautiful thing, and you can read more about that on equinealchemy.com. But I'm also practice Reiki. There's all kinds of ways to do energy work where you can release those blocks. One of my favorite is raindrop therapy on horses. I learned about a lot of this stuff just so I could work with the horses because they're so amazing in their responses. So clearing these blocks is essential, and attachments create those blocks. So we can't move forward. Not only are we not looking at the possibilities, we just are stuck because of our attachments. And it comes from poverty consciousness. As we said that detachment is synonymous with wealth consciousness. Attachment comes from poverty consciousness, which means that goes back to the insecurity. There's not enough. There'll never be enough. Money is a really great way to look at insecurity because people think if I just make X million dollars, then I'll get to where I need to go and I can retire. When in fact, that never happens. It never, ever happens. So looking at an attachment, whether it's money, relationship, business, is a way to make sure that you're not going to get to where you need to go. And also, and this is for me one of the things that I feel all the time, and it is connected to one of the things that we found out in the quiz, and that is that it's an energy bandit. And a lot of us don't take self-care as one of the most important things that we need to do. So the practice is honoring the body, one of the 10 practices. And attachment are an energy bandit. They just suck our energy right out of us because we're always so sure that that's where we have to be. So look at the difference between those two. Detachment, wealth consciousness, honoring the true self, really owning the pure consciousness of who we are and how we're connected, to attachments, energy bandits, very insecure. They don't allow us to move forward. They actually block energy so we stay stuck. I know, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? However, we have developed the energy and context that we have around our lives from a very long line of conditioning and influence. And so one of the things that I would ask you to do right now, take a deep breath. It's important for you to recognize that where you were before is part of your path. So shaming, blaming, and judging yourself for your lack of awareness or your attachments or anything that we're going to talk about is not going to move you forward, and it is in fact an attachment to that perspective of yourself. So keep breathing, honor the path you've been on up until this point, because it is part of the path. The path didn't just begin when you decided to start practicing.
Lisa?
Yeah.
I think it might be nice to share Susan's story.
Okay, great. Thank
Because
you.
it's such a great example of her experience of being attached to a way of being and what happened when she was able to release that attachment.
Great. Yeah. All right, Susan, there actually is a video that goes with this on YouTube if you go to Equine Alchemy YouTube, and it's called Whispers of a Mystical Master. And we'll make sure that we send that out in the follow-up email to this. But here's her story as well. And this is one of the main reasons why I want to share this with you, not only because it's Susan's story, it's a human, but it's because of her connection with Coach Simon, one of our master equine coaches, that she was able to become aware and have this experience. All right. I'm going to read this because I want to really give you the experience as she felt it. It was through acknowledging my multiple levels of frustration as a result of living with the unpredictability of multiple sclerosis that I could step into my intention for my experience in the round pen with Coach Simon with integrity and optimal awareness. I didn't want to continue to feel surges of panic that were directly related to my fear of falling when I was with the horses. I wanted to heal the attachment to the belief that somehow I now had no value to bring to this work with horses because it was hidden underneath my flaring nerves from the multiple sclerosis, my frozen breath, and my intense shaking. I wanted to transform my attachment and ruthless judgment of my worthiness to do what I believe is my purpose. Well, then she went into the round pen. Nothing seemed to work in the round pen between Simon and I. Lisa, because I was working with her, must have felt my hopelessness and fear because she placed a chair inside the round pen in the shade. I sat down and released the tension in my legs and my attachment to being strong physically as the only way to be strong, and started to breathe. Coach Simon approached me in his gentle, powerful way and drew me into what I can only describe as an exquisite place of oneness with the collective wisdom of the horse ancestors. Simon began to breathe rhythmically, and through this rhythm he engaged me eye to eye, breath to breath. Simon allowed me to feel the storehouse of consciousness within me, and many moments we shared were moments between time and space. In those moments of pranayama, or language of the breath, I was using my entire body as an organ of perception. Simon was sharing with me the wisdom of his heart, showing me how to locate consciousness in my own heart and begin to know the world in a way that is harmonizing to me. He showed me that strength could be felt and manifested in many ways. This was a very, very poignant place for her. It was very powerful. And it was Susan's detachment to her self-perception that she couldn't do what she had always wanted to do and fulfill her purpose in life because of her disabilities with multiple sclerosis. And her time with Simon allowed her to, she actually created together with him this mystical experience of herself and an intimate connection with spirit and another sentient being. So know that with detachment, you can acquire anything that you want on this earth. You hold this energy of detachment, You move forward and you allow whatever wants to come in. The knowing of self, perceiving of self in a completely different way. And Susan wanted to believe, and she wanted to heal. She wanted to heal the belief and attachment to her lack of worthiness and ability to live her purpose. And through acknowledging these beliefs, now this is an important thing. You don't just deny or have resistance to your beliefs. You embrace them, you acknowledge them, and that's what you have to do before you let them go. And that's where that vulnerability comes in, acknowledging that you are afraid, acknowledging that you don't know, acknowledging that, as I said about myself, I don't have a clue how to deal with this. And that's where the path of the spiritual warrior can support you in so many ways. So, Shelley, I know that I have so many more things to talk about. And I want to hear the time, Maven. So I want to see. Let's see here. Selena, do we have anything in the chat that people might want to share?
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you kept talking, because both Shelley and I were all choked up from hearing Susan's story. And then Jackie mentioned that she was feeling what I think she means Susan was feeling through the language of your story as well. So it was really powerful. And you guys have given us so much important information, and I know that I'm helping you keep track of time, and that you promised that you would share how people could go forward with you with the work. And so what it is that you might have prepared that you're able and willing and ready to share today.
Okay, Shelley, before you get into this, I just want to let everyone know that this was only part one. We are going to do another deep dive into this practice of detachment. And so what we've done today is to show you the possibility of what even acknowledging your attachment to things, rather than shaming, blaming, or judging yourself, acknowledging them, holding them in that vulnerability of the unknown. We've shown you the power of healing that can come forth from detachment.
Right.
There's more to come.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. That was really very powerful. And as many times as I've read Susan's story, I've watched the video, it moves me every time. Just it encapsulates so much of what's possible in very few words. It's very powerful. Well, we'd like to share more with you, and obviously in this webinar series we can only go so deep, and we thought it would be much more valuable to go very deeply into one practice than to just gloss over all 10 of them. And so the opportunity to go deeply into all 10 of those is we've put together an introductory course called The Path of a Spiritual Warrior.
Shelley?
Yes.
Shelley? I'm sorry, I just want to remind and let everyone know that we have a little homework for you before we end, and a little bit of a recap. So this means you can engage in this practice of detachment immediately, and we have specific exercises that you can choose to immerse yourself in between now and Thursday. So make sure you stay on for that last little bit of opportunity.
Good advice. Good advice. So, the introductory course is going to be 5 calls that we're going to go deeply into 2 practices during each call. And then we also have a retreat. So you can participate either just in the virtual course or the virtual course with the retreat. And I want to just kind of go over a couple of things so that you can be clear, get some information as to whether or not this is going to be for you. And mostly you'll know if you're somebody that is maybe struggling with some limiting beliefs that maybe are holding you back from embracing your full potential, or you are trying to figure out how to access your own emotional intelligence, right? Your body's talking to you. It is time to listen. You might be struggling with a true relationship with higher consciousness, either God or the noosphere, universal intelligence, however you define God for yourself. Or that your purpose on this path of serving the greater good and trying to discern what that is. And the greater good could be specifically for humans, animals, or the earth. It doesn't matter because we're all one, and whoever you are helping helps us all. You know, most people really feel a lot of tension around accessing the meaning and the purpose and prosperity for themselves. So maybe you can relate to this. If you're looking for meaning, maybe you feel that all of your efforts so far have not had a positive impact on the world. Or maybe you fear that if you do evolve and you embrace a higher consciousness, that you'll be abandoning your loved ones and that they may not evolve along with you. Or maybe you believe that a meaningful life is for those who are specifically called by God and that others have better communication with God than you do. And for your purpose, maybe you have a longing to do or share something significant, and yet you haven't been able to quite grasp exactly what that something is. And maybe you do know exactly what you want to do or share with the world, and yet you feel ashamed to toot your own horn. Or maybe you've tried and you've failed a time or two, and now you doubt that you are in touch with your true purpose. And then with regards to prosperity, and Lisa talked about this, that detachment is part of wealth consciousness. And it's all part of our personal growth, is stepping into prosperity. Maybe you feel that to be supported by the universe or others means that you are a burden. Or maybe you feel bad because you have more health and wealth than other people in the world do. Or maybe you feel bad because you have less health and wealth than other people in the world do. All of those things are attachments to an idea of the way things should be. We'll talk a lot about shoulds in our course as well. So here's an opportunity to connect to your own meaning, purpose, and prosperity through our course, The Path of the Spiritual Warrior, Living the 10 Practices to Clarity and Manifestation. Now, like I said, there's two options. You can do only the virtual course. That's 5 content and coaching sessions. The classes will be about 90 minutes each. We also have the virtual course with the retreat, and this is the 5 content and coaching sessions. Plus, it's an evening and 2 full days of equine experiential spiritual development. And we'll do a special group follow-up call post-retreat. So everyone who does come to the retreat, you're going to get a special call just for you to anchor some of the experience. So here's a little bit about what you'll discover on this path with us. By the end of the first week, we hope that you're going to take away a new understanding of accountability and the importance of trusting yourself, as well as some simple and important practices for creating sacred space for yourself and for others in both your personal and your professional life. So the accountability and the rituals, this is going to be the foundation for all the other practices.
And by the way, Shelley,
yes,
we're going to, when we do the retreat, some of these rituals are going to be done with the horses, and they're going to be amazing. So remember, in each one of these sessions, in each one of these calls, remember the feeling. Just stop for a minute and remember the feeling that you had when you heard Susan's story. Remember what that felt like to you. What we're inviting you into, although Shelley's telling you and she's speaking about it, can't really be said in words. It's about what you're feeling. So we're going in each one of these classes, although they're virtual, our intention is to connect through spirit. Is to connect on that divine level of consciousness that knows so much more deeply than anything that you could just read or watch. So know that although we're talking about these things, I would invite you to just remember the feeling that you are having in listening to everything that Shelley and I and Selena have brought you so far. And also I would invite you to notice if Any detachments, any attachments are coming up around this when we talk about this. I'd like you to notice if you're feeling any resistances. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't have them. It means that is a great opportunity to explore a detachment or an attachment. Where are you attached to your perspectives around how you can be supported on your path as spiritual warrior? So every single thing that we're saying and inviting you into, we are doing ourselves. At least with three of us, we can remind each other a lot. That's why we like a whole community. So, okay, now that was like the let's check back in with our spirit and divine energy and pure consciousness we were feeling before, right? And then see if we can listen to what else Shelley's going to be telling us from that place without any judging, just noticing. Okay? All right,
Excellent. Every moment is a moment to check in and test your own awareness. Yes. Which is where we want to bring you by the end of our second call, and that's uncovering the hidden stories and unconscious and unexamined beliefs. And we'll take you through guided meditations and exercises that will expand your personal awareness there. Also, there's going to be the opportunity to identify the toxic myths that have been holding you back from embracing a chosen community of support and spiritual growth. Next, we're going to go into the experience your feelings in the language of emotions. And by the end of this week, we want you to have a sense of some freedom and some joy and some strength as you really connect with the language of your heart and the wisdom of your body to help you on your path to meaning and purpose and prosperity. Then by the end of our fourth call together, you're going to start to feel a sense of relief, and you'll feel more self-love as you begin to see yourself through the eyes of your soul. You'll begin to identify the attachments that have been preventing you from a really clear direction and your purpose, that you want to be centered around your true nature. And then in our last call, we're going to look at planetary health and our friendship with discipline. And by the end of this call, you're going to have a whole new relationship with discipline and your ability to notice within yourself when you are supporting the divine in you and when you are not. And you'll have a more positive and secure perspective of your place in the world and a fresh, higher sense of self with more meaning around purpose and prosperity and hopefully all of your tomorrows. So that's just the virtual work. In our retreat, the horse and humans are going to unite, and we're going to have a herd experience for the soul. This is where you really get to embody the journey. Like Lisa was saying, we're going to put some of these rituals into practice when we're together. Even though we all have to do our own work, it's the awareness of ourselves will be amplified and anchored through our physical experience of the herd. It's our coming together for a sacred honoring and the exploration through the ways of the horse that will provide a safe container for us to try on our new courage and our new vulnerability. And by the end of this retreat, you're going to come away with a new relationship to yourself and your perception of others. And we hear this all the time from working with the horses, that people start to notice more gratitude in their lives, more patience, more understanding. You may even notice a richer level of communication between your family, your friends, your coworkers, and your pets and horses.
Shelley,
Yeah.
I'd like to let people know that this work is not just for people who know anything about horses. All the work is done on the ground. You don't even have to go into a round pen or into a paddock or into any kind of fenced area with a horse, because we're talking about divine energy and pure consciousness, which I don't think has any familiarity with fences and concrete barriers. Now, we're going to be dealing on all different levels. So, and I also want to let people know that although I had been meditating since 1989, it wasn't until I began my journey with the horses that I was able to go into an aspect of myself that I didn't even know was there. They are truly magical and mystical beings. And so this retreat allows you to take what you've learned in the calls and take it to a depth that perhaps would not be possible.
Right. Right. So just to wrap up, thank you for that, Lisa. What you were saying about the energy not knowing the boundaries. The only boundaries energy recognizes is those blocks within us. And that's the only thing that stops it. So yes, doesn't matter if you're actually in the round pen with the horse or not. The energy is still flowing. So very quickly, if you visit the website, equinealchemy.com/PSW course, CORUSE, course, you'll see all of the specifics about the course and how you can sign up and the cost and all of that and the dates. I will tell you that the retreat is scheduled for October 30th, an evening session October 30th, and then we will have 2 full days on the 31st and the 1st of November in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then all of the calls are going to take place on either a Tuesday morning. We have 1 call on a Thursday at the very end. And we have a bonus call for those attending the retreat, which is also on a Thursday. And those start on October 13th and complete on November 19th. So you're also going to get access to our private Facebook community just for the Path of the Spiritual Warrior. This is going to be a great place for continual support and some coaching and some accountability. And you're going to get the transcripts. These are invaluable. I don't know about you, but when I go through a learning course, going back to the transcripts really helps me anchor the learning, because once I was part of it through the auditory and visual, then being able to read it really helps me a lot. And we have a very special price offer that's going to last between right now until September 28th. And the reason we chose September 28th is because that's the full moon this month, and the full moon represents completion. So it's an opportunity for you to complete your decision-making process and save 25% off enrollment for this course. The virtual only is $297, and the virtual with retreat is $997. Once you go to the site, you can see the different payment options and choose which you feel is going to be best for you. And we're happy to answer any questions in the interim as well. So we have a couple things to share in closing, and I see we have some really beautiful comments. So Selena, can we check in on the comments real quick, and then Lisa, you can take us to close?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Amy shared a while back that the idea of detachment feels very empowering to her. Her desire is to do this work, and the vulnerability for her is that she doesn't know how it will look. As I sat listening to, to Susan's story and this entire webinar, a hummingbird has been engaging with me, so much so that I did a body scan to try and understand what it might have meant for her. She felt the message was that not only is it okay to hover in the waiting, but that is where the gift and the power is. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. And Robin just says she had to sign off right at the top of the hour. She said, thanks for today, the points of focus, the stories, and your personal outlooks. I find such inspiration and energy to move ahead this morning. My head's spinning with inner scanning. Woohoo.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't that great?
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Again, I would totally, well, I do. I totally invite you to go check out this information that Shelley went over, and to breathe while you're doing it. Really check in with yourself and see what's there for you as you make body connection. And as I said, a way for you to take this work immediately into your life. Robin said she was going to take it into this morning. We'll hope she checks her email, because we'll make sure that we send this as well. Practice the detachment now. Commit. Here are some specific ways that you can do this you can start right now and let us know how it works by Thursday. Commit to this practice of detachment each day. When you wake up in the morning, I am going to practice detachment today, and see what happens. Notice, and I've been saying this, you'll hear me say this a lot, especially if you decide to join us for the entire course. Notice when you feel vulnerability. Breathe into that vulnerability. It's there for a reason. And then knowing that, allow yourself to trust and know that vulnerability is this essential ingredient on the path of a spiritual warrior. And each day affirm that your willingness to accept the not knowing is the right path, and it will allow you to naturally reveal solutions out of what you see can be chaos or confusion. So just your willingness to step into that vulnerability and accept how you're feeling, accept the not knowing. This will allow, out of the chaos and confusion, for solutions to emerge. And then step into that sacred field of possibilities and anticipate the excitement that can occur when you're open to the infinity of choices. Now, that's a big deal. By attaching yourself, you are limiting your choices. And you're also feeling tired and you're not very happy. So step into this sacred field of possibilities and anticipate the excitement, the love, the joy, the happiness that you're going to feel when you are open to all of these choices before you, rather than being attached to the one thing that you're afraid you're not going to have. So if you practice these between now and Thursday, we really want to know how it worked for you, how it went for you, what you felt. And I completely encourage you not to shame, blame, or judge yourself when you notice what's happening for you. It's a noticing exercise. All right. I guess that's it. We are a little bit after. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your hearts. Is there anything, Celine, in the chat or Shelley, that you would either like to share in closing?
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who is here with us and who is on this journey with us. We look forward to being with you again on Thursday and going, we have even more stuff to share about detachment. You think your head's spinning now.
Yes, yes. Thank you all so much. And Selena, you have anything?
Just thank you. There were no more comments, but except for my own. Just deep gratitude. Thank you very much. Beautiful, beautiful stories and sharing today. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Go with joy. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.